Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. My name is Jason Dustal. I'm with AVPro Global Holdings. Today's going to be pretty cool because we're doing an interview with our CTO, Matt Murray. We just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we accomplished this year and some of the new products that we came out with. And we want to just give you guys an idea of what we're looking like going into 2020 into the future. We are live here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota at the AVPro Global headquarters. We are in a live office environment, so please excuse any background noise. We'll try to keep that to a minimum. But again, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We do have Tom and Nick watching the chat room, so if you guys do have any questions about anything that we covered today, feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. Tom and Nick will do their best to answer those questions for you. We will leave some time at the end if you have specific questions for Matt or myself. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about AVPro Global. If you guys are new to us, thank you so much for joining the webinar. If you've attended our webinars before and if you're a current customer of ours, then thank you so much for your continued support. I hope you guys had a great 2019 just like we did. We've been around since 2011. We started off as an online distribution channel selling different products, and we figured out that there was a big giant hole in the market for 18 gig distribution for some HDMI test equipment. So we got into the manufacturing business a few years ago. At the end of the day, our goal is to make products that are easy for installers, products that get you out of pickles, and things that are going to help you anytime you're stuck on a job site. We've got a bunch of cool new products that we'll talk about today. For those of you who are doing installations and troubleshooting, we got some really cool stuff to cover. We're always on top of things. We've been doing 18 gigs since 2015. We were way ahead of the game there. We're already starting to talk about some 8K and HDMI 2.1 stuff. So as the technology changes very rapidly in this industry, we try to stay in front of it and we try to keep you guys as involved as possible. Okay, so just a little bit about me. If you guys have met me before, I'm with AVPro Global. This is year number 3 for me. I've been with the company. I've been doing home theater installation and been playing around in this space since 1999. Lifelong enthusiast. I just love this stuff. I travel around and teach AVPro Academy classes and ISF classes, and I've probably met some of you guys before and seen some of your faces. Our CTO, Matt Murray, he's going to be joining us here on the second half of the webinar. He is an ISF instructor. He is our CTO. He chairs for CTA and HD-Base-T. He's a CEDIA and a VIXA instructor, and this year we were very happy to hear that Matt he won the DealerScope 40 Under 40 Award for 2019, so we're really excited about that, and congratulations to him for that. And with that being said, let's get into the year-end review. So, a couple of new products that we had this year. You can see how long this list is. This was a very big year for us for product development. Again, listening to the installers and some of the problems you guys are faced with in the field, we'd like to take some of that feedback and make products. So when you guys call us up and you have a real specific problem, these are where some of these products stem from. We'll talk a little bit about some of these products in depth here in a little bit, but we'll talk a little bit about the Murideo 7G. That's our big new HDMI test and troubleshooting piece of gear. We showed it off at CEDIA and very excited about that. This year we came out with a 16x16 matrix switch that's completely modular, meaning you only buy what you need. So if you need only 10 inputs and 12 outputs or something along those lines, you can build it up and customize it however you'd like. We have a great new line of ConfreX products. Those are going to be products that are used in places like classrooms and colleges and airports and any other commercial environment you might think of. One product that I'm super excited for, being a huge video file, is the uncompressed fiber kit. Being able to extend HDMI signals over fiber completely uncompressed and getting that pure signal, very important for video quality. Something else we showed off at CEDIA, which was amazing, was our 48 gig bullet train HDMI cable. We were actually passing an 8K signal through it to an 8K Sony TV, and it was kind of the talk of the show. It was very, very cool. We had a 60 meter and I think a 100 meter cable at the show. It did really well. We've got a couple new video wall products that make video walls super easy, basically plug and play for the most part. Those are our Fresco pieces. You'll see on the screen there the Cap 4, the video wall processor, and then the 1x16 distribution amplifier. We also came out with a 2x10 switch that's for HD-Base-T, and also the AUHD and the Dolby Atmos downmixing capabilities now. The AVDM downmixing cards that you can put into these modular, like the 16x16 matrix switch. So if you're doing some really high-end audio and you need to down mix Dolby Atmos, you can do that in modular, or we have a standalone piece that'll let you do that as well. This year we had a huge year for trade shows and different training events that we did around the country. We certified over 100 new ISF calibrators. Over 100 students came through our AVPro Academy class, whether that was in Sioux Falls or maybe a remote class. We had about 100 people come through. We had a huge presence at all the big trade shows this year. ISE in Amsterdam. We have that coming up in February again. It will be the last year in Amsterdam, so we hope to see you guys there. Infocom in Orlando we did really well at. We had 2 booths set up and we met a lot of new folks there. And then CEDIA in Denver, always a great time. We had a great trade show there as well, and that's where we were showing off the 7G and the some of the new products, the video wall processor, the 48 gig fiber optic cable, so lots and lots of cool stuff. If you guys are interested in any of our training courses and you want to see some of the things that we have scheduled already for next year, go ahead and visit us at avpro.training and you'll see that full schedule for AVPro Academy and the ISF classes that we have scheduled so far. So speaking of the new products, one that we'll talk about first is the Murideo 7G generator. This is what you see on the screen now. This is a very exciting piece if you're in the manufacturing business or in the troubleshooting or installation business like most of you are. This is a full 18 gig for now, and what you can do with this piece in the future is upgrade it to HDMI 2.1 for 8K. We do have an upgrade path for you available if that's something that you'd be interested in doing in the upgrade. But being able to do test videos and test images at 120 frames per second with high resolution and having tons and tons of test patterns built in and being able to customize and upload your own test patterns and test images and videos, this is going to be a beast of a piece, guys. We always have problems in distributed systems, not always, but we sometimes have problems in distributed systems with lip sync errors and things like that, and we're going to be able to do all that testing in just one box with the 7G generator. Being able to test ARC and eARC. eARC's a big talk right now because it is showing up in some new products already. Being able to test for Dolby Audio. It's the only licensed Dolby Audio test piece of equipment that's out there right now. You got a nice big 7-inch display. You can log into it from a web GUI and do things yourself as far as bringing up test patterns and whatnot. There's USB 3.0 on it in case you want to upload your own test patterns, or maybe you want to stream some videos that you have saved up. And that upgrade path that I talked about just a moment ago, the unit itself is going to be $49.99 out the gate. That's going to come with an HDMI 2.0 capabilities, and if you want to eventually upgrade to HDMI 2.1, it's about $1,000 for the upgrade, but if you go ahead and do that now with the pre-order, then you'll have that upgrade once it's available. This is our modular 16x16 AUHD HD-based T chassis. You can go up to 16 inputs and 16 outputs with this matrix switch. It is completely modular, so if you only needed 9 inputs or 7 outputs, or whatever your unique case might be, you can totally customize this as much as you want. The Dolby Atmos downmixing cards are available on the input side, so if you do have some high-end audio, maybe you've got a nice Blu-ray player and you're doing Atmos in the main theater, you can get some Dolby Atmos downmixing cards to pop into the chassis if you do need that. Some of the classroom and commercial products I talked about before, the ConfreX pieces. What you can see on the screen right now is our 6x2 classroom matrix switch. It's got a microphone input. You can hook up any of our HD-based T receivers. You can do lots of cool stuff with this if you're in a classroom environment. I also want to mention the wall plates too. We came up with a couple new wall plates this year. The one that you see on the screen right now is actually USB-C. We'll talk to Matt a little bit later. We've got a question for him lined up talking about USB-C and what we're seeing with USB-C right now in the video world. But it is coming. I mean, most phones have it, and I'm seeing lots of laptops with USB-C now. So being able to use those in those classroom environments is super important. Here's the uncompressed fiber kit that I mentioned before. This is a great little piece. If you guys are doing really high quality video and you're looking at maybe your customer's looking at a very, very big screen, or maybe he's just a video file, this is the kind of extender that you're going to want to have on you at all times. This takes an HDMI signal and converts it over to fiber, and you can go up to 300 meters with it. This is a very, very cool piece. We've had a fiber extender in the past, but it was limited on bandwidth to 10.2 gigs. But this new one is a full 18 gigs, and the receiver and the transmitter are very small. They're very cool. They're very lightweight. This is going to be a game changer for you guys who are running super, super long distances. Another new product that we're very proud of this year are the new 48 gig HDMI cables. They are active optical cables, the AOC cables. You can see some of the specs that are just on the screen right now. I mean, I don't have to get too into it, but you can see these are very, very robust cables. They're going to carry us way into the future, as they do handle 48 gigs, 120 frames per second, 10K resolution. For you guys who are doing installations, it's all CL rated, INWAL rated, those types of good things. And we've tested this cable back and forth, left and right, up and down, and we're not able to get these things to not pass some type of signal. So if you're future proofing, if you're building a big distributed system now, these are the kind of things that you want to consider. If you go ahead and bury those 48 gig cables in the wall now, maybe in some conduit, that's going to help you in the future, and really make sure that you don't get yourself stuck in a situation where your cables have too little bandwidth for the system that you're installing. These are really cool pieces too. We showed these off at CEDIA. These are our video wall, new video wall pieces. The Fresco Cap 4, what you see on the left side of the screen there, is basically a plug-and-play video wall processor. So you've got an HDMI input, you've got 4 outputs for your 4 screens, and then you'll notice in the lower left corner there is a loop out, so you can daisy chain multiple units together and make video walls whatever size you want to. Another piece that we introduced this year that will help with video walls, especially on the right side of the screen, is the 1x16 distribution amplifier. Oh, and it looks like I mounted that picture upside down. Sorry about that, guys. But that is the 1x16 distribution amplifier. So if you are going from one source to 16 displays, or if you're just doing a video wall processor with 4 screens, or whatever the case is, take a look at some of these Fresco pieces. They're going to be very helpful, I think, in some really cool applications. So with that being said, let me fire up my camera here, and we're going to introduce our CTO, Matt Murray, and we've got some questions for him. And I also want to see if there's any questions that are currently in the chat box. So bear with me for just a moment, and let's see what we got for the webcam. There we go. Okay, that looks good. And while we're here, let's go ahead and check the chat box. Is this session being recorded? Yes, it is. Thank you, Mike, for that question. It will be available on YouTube a little bit later. Another question came in from Kristen. Is the Murideo 7G compatible with different video calibration programs such as CalMan, Lightspace, ColorSpace, and ChromaPure? Yes, absolutely, Kristen. Great question. There was a CalMan release last week, 2019 R3, and that version of CalMan is compatible now with the 7G. Matt, what do you think about Lightspace, ColorSpace, ChromaPure?
It's either very close to done. It could be done now. I haven't checked as of this morning, but they've been integrating it.
Cool. So. Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. Great question. Okay, guys, those are all the questions for now. So without further ado, we'll introduce our CTO, Matt Murray.
Hello.
Matt, we had an awesome 2019. I think I racked up 30 flights or something like that. I know you probably had even more than that. We talked about some of the new products and the trade shows and the training, and I feel like we had a lot of successes this year. What were some of your highlights and some of your favorite things that you saw in 2019?
Well, from a product standpoint, we've really had a lot of focus on our intellectual property and some developments that were basically in-house projects. Like, for instance, a lot of this new fiber optic stuff that's coming out. We have in January, for those of you that have kind of been to the trade shows and stuff, you probably know we've got about 3 or 4 new fiber optic products coming. Very, very small extenders. The 16x16 chassis product, that's becoming an ecosystem, so that'll probably kind of change. It's not just going to be an HD-based product, it's going to also have fiber optic. That's a patent pending item that we've developed in-house.
Nice.
So it's our, the goal is to drive the price of fiber optics down, so that people can use it for HDMI 2.0, 2.1,
right,
and things going into the future. Biggest challenge is the current stuff that's available was, extremely overpriced. Adding an optical module was very expensive,
sure,
and it made products priced astronomical.
It's almost unobtainable for some people, right?
Pretty much.
You're installing this video system, and then you need an extender, and the extender's like gobs and gobs of money. It's almost like, wow, do we need this right now?
Yeah, so this will bring it all full circle.
Good.
And we'll have a product it's unique to us. It's our own module. We've also been developing a scaling system that uses a combination of FPGA and some other chips that are out there. We've been developing that for about a year and a half, and you're going to start seeing that come into some products, particularly the 16x16 chassis-based system.
Right.
Where we can do unique things like hold the handshake, scale the resolutions while still passing HDR and things like that. So the performance is going to be a lot better with when you use scaling technology like this. So if you eliminate a TV or something from having to resync itself, all of a sudden the system feels more robust.
That seems too like I talk to our tech support folks every day, and that seems like that is a call that comes up and a question that comes up in some of the classes we teach about how can we speed up some of these switching times and things. So you're saying if that scaling holds the handshake, then your switching is much faster.
Well, yeah, because you're not waiting for the TV or the intermediate devices to kind of do its thing.
Right.
So it's just, if it's one constant signal, it's just easier on everything in the whole system.
Sure.
So,
and you mentioned fiber too, and I just want to bring up the point in case you guys don't know about this. Terminating fiber in the field, super easy, safe. You can do it in less than a minute. We have kits available. We teach how to terminate the fiber in our classes.
Right.
There's a couple YouTube videos out there from Clearline and from us that show you how to terminate the fiber. So this really seems like going forward with as much bandwidth as we're going to need in the future, that's really the way to go.
Well, it's definitely got its advantages. The fiber cost has come down. The ability to terminate fiber is there. The cost with these new modules is going to be brought down. Fiber doesn't have the opportunity to have interference, so there's some advantages there. You
can zip tie it next to a piece of Romex. It's no big deal. No worry if you really wanted to, right?
Yeah, it'll be a good change. But we're not taking our eye off the ball from copper either, because there's still a big need for retrofit systems.
Sure.
So I do think there's always going to be new builds. It's feasible to put fiber in. If you're going into a place and you've got a house full of copper, or it's a business or whatever, we still want to be able to try to deliver these higher bandwidth signals. Like HDMI 2.1, probably going to be using fiber. Will be our first.
Sure.
Our first launches next year with HDMI 2.1 will be over fiber and basic HDMI switchers and stuff like that.
Good.
And then doing it over category cable, Cat 6, Cat 7. That's stuff that's underway, but it's requiring some compression and stuff like that. So.
And speaking of that, I get questions a lot from the integrators who come to our classes about AV over IP. And I know especially our company, we come from such a dedicated and passionate background with picture quality. So with AV over IP, a lot of people are asking about it. We're getting to a point now where we've got a way of doing it that we're actually pretty happy with it, right?
Well, AV over IP is obviously something that we need to address in the marketplace. People want to use that technology. Would it be highly recommended for a high-end residence? Probably not, especially if you're using a 1 gig infrastructure.
Right.
Just because, if you just use basic math, you're compressing something that's up to 18 gig
down to 1.
Yeah. And it does have an impact. Most of the 1 gig fiber optic solutions and currently available silicon is compressing from 10 gig to 1 gig, so you're really not even able to go above. There is the AptoVision product, that's the SDVOE Alliance. There's many manufacturers making products with that uses a 10 gig operating system, so that's better. If you are going into a high-end home, that's probably what you would choose. But there is some places where it makes sense.
Sure.
A lot of sources, a lot of displays.
Maybe a sports bar with a bunch of 1080
sports
displays
bars
or something.
All the time.
Sure.
We in fact, with Canvas systems, we program our Cloud9 all the time. Once in a while, we'll do a retrofit job where there's already an existing HD over IP system. We're just coming in to do some of the control and stuff like that. So, but from an AVPro standpoint, we do have this product category in development. You'll see it launch in 2020. Don't have a lot more info or intel on when that will be, but
that's okay. Though you guys heard it, 2020. Look for some AV over IP stuff from AVPro. That's good. That's exciting. One product I mentioned before, we were talking briefly about classroom and commercial environments, is our ConfreX line. We have a wall plate now that's USB-C. So new laptops have it. All the my phones had USB-C now for a couple of generations. Where do you see USB-C fitting into our world with distribution and transmitting video?
Well, I think it's going to be kind of more of a commercial type application. So computers are coming with fewer and fewer HDMI ports. So USB-C is another option there. It's effectively just DisplayPort, just uses a different type of cable.
Oh, is that what it is? Cool.
Yep, and it just can also provide power data and stuff like that, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's some unique opportunities from a hardwired bring your own device. So USB-C definitely plays a role. You always want to have that hardwired connection, especially in conference rooms. But you know, I mean, a lot of the conference rooms that are being specified today still require VGA.
Sure.
You know, because they want to be in
make
touch
sure
with the past.
Everything's
and in touch
covered.
with the future, right?
Yeah.
But one of the big moves for us in 2020 in residential and commercial is we're focusing a lot on how people are using their devices, handheld cell phones, computers. The way that people share content is changing. You know, a lot of people want to share from their phones and stuff. So wireless connectivity is going to be a big push for us. So something like you'll see a receiver with an HD-based T or fiber head-end infrastructure. Receiver in the room itself has the ability to accept wireless connections as well, like say from your phone or your computer.
That's awesome.
AirPlay, casting up to the screen and sharing like that. So
potentially I could come into a classroom if I'm an instructor. I could plug my laptop in USB-C to the wall plate. I've got power and signal there. And then if I do have maybe some photos or something on my phone I want to show the class, I can do that as well.
Yep, or just wireless from your laptop. You know, if you're in an in-home environment, you may go over to a friend's house and want to show something from your phone. As long as they can connect to your network,
that's awesome.
They can share up to any one of these zones. So wireless is another a big kind of move we're going into in 2020. So a lot more than HDMI 2.1. Yeah, that's cool, and we're going to do that. We want to have that high bandwidth video, but we're trying to think of how to make these products more interesting and more fun for the end user consumer to add value to putting in the distributed system.
I've been in plenty of situations before where I do go into like a classroom or an office or something, and it's always like this huge scramble to find adapters and to where's the cable and where's this and where's that. But the stuff you're talking about, it sounds like it's a huge lifesaver for those situations.
We hope so.
That's great. So with 2020 being days away now and HDMI 2.1, we saw that in some 2019 TV models, but we haven't really seen any sources yet or really heard much about sources yet. There was an announcement from the 8K Alliance that they were not going to be putting 8K content on discs, at least not at the beginning. So source-wise, I'm thinking we're going to see maybe some like streaming boxes and maybe some native stuff maybe on the TV. Where do you think the 8K and all the really high bandwidth stuff will come from first?
Well, I think it's going to be in devices like a Kaleidoscape or something like that. Where you're downloading it and storing it and showing it. You'll obviously have the streaming devices. Sure. We'll get into it when they can. It's a question mark though, because 8K is a ton more data. So streaming is not necessarily as feasible. On some of the network infrastructures that are currently available. So they have, content providers have a couple challenges. One is, when is it too early to start streaming it? Because if someone goes and buys something that's 8K that relies on an internet connection, and it doesn't work,
Mhm.
you know, that's a challenge for the person who made the device.
Sure.
So,
It might be baby steps, right?
yeah, I mean, I think you'll see some stuff come out in 2020. I mean, I know from our standpoint, Murideo will have an 8K test pattern generator with the upgrade to the 7G, and we also have in conjunction a development on a smaller, more suitable device for an integrator.
Sure.
That'll come out sometime late in the year.
Yeah.
And the Matrix switcher, you know, we've got one that'll launch somewhere around CEDIA, so you can at least do some 8K theater rooms and things like that. But yeah, I do think you'll see sources sometime.
Maybe CES even. There might be some. Maybe.
I think you'll see them. I don't think you'll see anything shipping.
Not till fall, probably, if anything.
But yeah, I do think you're going to start seeing upscaling devices, just like with 4K.
Sure,
you know,
it's all over it. We're coming full circle, doing it all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4K was baby steps.
And you're going to see one of the things that I think is overlooked is in commercial, 8K and HDR. You know, 4K was not really exciting for the commercial world, but now with the ability to do 8K, and I have seen some people experimenting with 8K video walls and stuff. They do look a lot better.
Sure.
For digital signage, HDR is finally kind of catching its stride in commercial because the better content, brighter screens, it attracts more eyeballs onto the screen. Right?
You're walking through the airport and you see this really bright advertisement. You're gonna look at it, and that's what HDR is all about.
Yep. So in years past, where we saw commercial was always, you know, when 4K first came out, it was like, well, commercial, they don't care. They, you know, 1080p. But the reality is, you know, we're seeing people coming and using our commercial products because we are doing HDR and we are doing full 4K, 60, 444, stuff like that, and we are doing HDR because, you know, from if I'm selling advertising space, I want it to be as bright and brilliant as possible.
Yeah, you want it to catch people's attention. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, more and more commercial environments I'm seeing these days, especially, the prices of panels are down, so they're doing huge video walls, and you know, you're doing these massive like 3x3 video walls, or even bigger than that. You do need high res, and you do need a bright, vivid image, and like you said, you need to catch people's attention. So it's coming from an engineering standpoint on our side of things. With 8K, how much harder is it to move? I mean, we had our challenges getting up to 18 gigs, but you know, that was no problem once we figured it out. How much harder is it to go from 18 to 24 and then to 48? Is it astronomically harder, or is it just more math and better chips? And
it's not as complicated as I think some of the world will have you believe.
Yeah.
Going to 24 gig from a general HDMI standpoint is fairly simple right now because you're just adding a fourth TMDS channel.
That's it.
An HDMI cable that's 18 gig today should work for HDMI 2.1 and 24 gig. Once you go to 48 gig, that becomes challenging, and the challenge is really the amount of bandwidth you're talking about. So our HDMI cables at first will get shorter again, just like we saw with 4K, until they figure out better ways to manufacture cables to make them go further distances. We have active optical cables right now that uses a chip that's proprietary to us that can do 12 gig per channel.
That's awesome.
So you have 12 by 4, which gives you the 48. From a cable standpoint, you're passing data through, so that's going to happen quicker. You're going to see 48 gig 8K cables. Some manufacturers are already selling them. And from an HDMI standpoint, an electronic standpoint, it is a different way of doing HDMI. So, for instance, in a matrix switch, your repeaters and your transmitters and your receivers, you know, those require new hardware. I mean, not a lot of stuff out there can be field updatable with just firmware and stuff like that. So, there's some ways that you can get things to do 8K using TMDS, but when you want to go into FRL and stuff like that, then it's going to require new parts.
I think, if I remember correctly, the HDMI.org, those folks, they may have released a spec recently that said that for HDMI 2.1, at least at the beginning, the recommended cable length is 2 meters. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I think so. About
2 meters,
2 meters
for 2.1
is the max. But they're addressing things like fiber.
Sure.
They know that's coming down
Right.
the pipe and stuff. And I think that like we're starting our optical cables at 5 meters because we were starting at 10 and now we're starting at 5 because it seems to be that the length is going to be shorter. So you'll see that. But yeah, I mean, right now it's you could be 8-10 months before someone puts in an 8K source. But the nicest thing with those cables, though, honestly, is the clear line fiber built in. So if you ever need to, it's got 4 strands of field terminatable fiber, and you can cut it off, and you can tie in an extender or something that comes out in the future.
Sure.
So 4 strands of fiber is as much bandwidth as you'll ever need.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's way into the future.
It should be enough bandwidth for at least 2 lifetimes.
Sure. That's good because if you did forget to run conduit, or maybe you couldn't run conduit for whatever reason, no big deal. You just lock the end off and re-terminate and keep moving ahead.
Right.
That's good. So we kind of talked about HDMI 2.1 and where we're at right now. We talked about the 7G having an upgrade path and some of the new hardware that has to happen. What are you anticipating or even excited about maybe? Are you going to go to CES? No?
Depends. I don't know.
Not sure yet? Okay. So into the future, like what are some of the things that pique your interest? Like as a developer and as a product manager and as a CTO, what are some of the things that you see that you're like, whoa, that is really, really cool?
Well, I think where everything's going, I guess from the way I see it, is I think it's going to go more towards larger OLED screens, micro LED screens, stuff like that.
Samsung just announced they're going to do micro LED starting in 2020, which we've seen those displays now for 2 or 3 years at shows. I thought for sure this would be a 2021, 2022 thing, but Samsung comes out like a week ago and says we will have 2020 micro LED products commercially available. And then to your point with the OLED, Vizio, Hisense are going to do OLED this year. More players in the game, costs will come down, the displays will get better, I think. LG has a brand new plant they're just dedicating to oversized OLEDs. So, maybe we're going to have a 120-inch OLED screen soon. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I don't
we
know.
will. And the big thing with the size increase and what goes, if you're going to have a whole wall in your house, that's a panel.
Right.
We're starting to look at the display at the end of the chain as somewhat of a canvas. So we want to figure out how to kind of revolutionize what's going on these screens. So if I have a big huge screen that's the size of a wall, I may want to have some customization element like maybe a Twitter feed, and maybe I'm watching TV in one area, and then I've got my doorbell camera over
Stock
here.
prices over here, and
So thinking of it more as a canvas to include, different types of source content, cell phones, computers, traditional sources, streaming sources, stuff coming directly into displays. So
I wonder how much more. Eventually, we're going to see like those Minority Report displays, that we saw in the movie like years ago. But yeah, being able to just kind of maybe do gestures and bring up the baby cam or something, and like the wall-size screen, that amount of, it's funny with 8K because you always see in the YouTube comments and stuff, people are like, oh, there's no content, but it'll come. Like the 4K content came, the 1080p content came, but when you have a display that big, you really need that much bandwidth and that resolution. I mean,
well, and if you have an 8K display right now, it's your best 4K display,
right?
Because they can do 4,000 nits, some of them doing 4,000 nits, so there's no tone mapping happening when you watch TV. So, I mean, it's a lot more. Pixel density resolution is not really the key game changer. That's good to make it bigger, but the way that things are being rendered and captured and displayed now is really kind of turning the corner, and we're able to get some really interesting stuff. And I know, from an AVPro / Murideo standpoint, you know, we hear things all the time where people are like, well, this is all this video distribution stuff is gonna end in 15 years.
Right.
The reality is, it's not. It's gonna change.
Yeah, it's just gonna be different.
And our job is to just stay on top of how it's gonna change, help our customers, clients, you know, get things that are more interesting, allow customers to do some new things that they can't do by just, you know, hanging a panel on the wall, and you know, so that's where we're kind of trying to guide ourselves.
Just thinking, you know, a little outside of the box here, I think Cadillac just announced the new Escalade is going to have like a 30-inch OLED screen, like as the dashboard. So I mean, maybe one of these days, you know, you're getting content, your phone and your car is sharing content, your TV at home or your wall at home is sharing content. You get to the office, your tablet or your workbook is sharing content.
There's always
so much interconnectivity.
Always new nodes.
Yeah,
you know, there's always new places. There's always new ideas, new concepts. You know, we're just outfitting our office here with some new. We're putting in the new 16 by 16, and we're doing some KVM. So that we have our leaders who can share stuff to their specific teams, have access to different sources, things like that. So I mean, it's you know, trying to figure out how to make it all more interactive.
Sure. Actually, you just brought up something. You just mentioned something that struck a reminder for me. I wanted to mention to everybody. We posted it on our Facebook page recently, but the AVPro Edge Experience Center in Chicago. Can you talk a little bit about that, and where exactly is that if people want to go see it?
So that's in Chicago, and I don't know the exact address off the top of my head, but it's in Chicago, and what it is, it's a partnership with one of our manufacturer reps, and it's one of the first kind of trial locations where it's just going to be featuring real world demos, so you can see product live and in action and what it can really do in person, because sometimes it's really hard to get that message across just in demo material and stuff like that. So that's a unique opportunity as we go into 2020 expansion. You know, we're hoping to have one of those on the East Coast and the West Coast. We have some international expansion happening. So, you know, 2020, if all goes as planned, you know, we might see a couple more of those type satellite locations. We're going to be more localized distribution for international, a couple new import companies, so we can go direct into Europe, direct into Asia, stuff like that. So
just make things easier.
Yep. So lots changing on the growth kind of, you know, sales side as well too.
So from a technical standpoint, going into the year 2020, what's heavy on your mind right now? What are some of the challenges that you think we're gonna be faced with in the next year, 2 years, 3 years?
Well, I mean, I think the challenge is staying in front of it and staying relevant. You know, so what we need to try to do, that's why we're trying to be really pioneers in fiber optics. By the end of January, I think we'll have the most extensive fiber offerings out there for this. And that's a module-based technology, you know, so that's our own silicon module. So, you know, we may even try to work with some other partners globally to get that technology more readily available. Fiber is going to be huge. That's been a big challenge. We've been working on that for a long time. HDMI 2.1, that's a challenge. You know, figuring out how customers want to use this stuff. And not just our integrators and dealers, it's the end user. You know, so what do we need to put into this stuff that makes it easier for our dealers to go out and sell it to a customer? You know, those are the real challenges. You know, from a technical standpoint, I feel confident in our engineering team and our R&D team that we can overcome most any hurdle. You know, as has kind of been proven and keeps getting proven, but you know, that's where our job is to really listen to the market, think of, you know, have, you know, forward-looking kind of thought processes on how this stuff works.
Guys, we are as a company, we are huge on customer feedback. I mean, we have products that we've developed just because of a very specific issue that somebody ran into. So if you guys have ideas or questions, or maybe have thoughts on how to make some of our products work better, or maybe some things you're thinking of to help you in the future, give us that feedback. We're happy to listen and take that stuff into consideration. It's cool. It's cool. Well, Matt, I think those are all the questions that I kind of had written down for you. Let's take a quick look here at the chat box and let's see if anybody had any specific questions. Okay. We had one question about AV over IP. I think we covered that. The Murideo 7G, Glenn has a question. Murideo 7G in regards to HDMI 2.1 support, will we be able to create vendor-specific VSIF, vendor-specific info blocks? Is that a simple question to answer, or should we reach out to Glenn?
No, there's a longer answer, but the short answer is yes, you will be able to. It's actually available right now. From the Dolby side of things, though, it's not available quite yet. It's just going, so for it's all certified as the Dolby audio piece goes. Dolby Vision will probably take another couple weeks, but yes, that's all firmware related things. Once Dolby goes through their approval process, you'll be able to do VSIF.
Cool, awesome. So Glenn, I hope you caught that from Matt. Stay tuned. Keep your eyes peeled for the 7G and some of the upgrades. Well, gosh, Matt, if you don't have anything else, those are all the questions I had for you. Maybe one more question maybe just popped in. Let's take a look. He's going to contact us about DTS as well. Okay, so maybe it's just a side note from Glenn. Okay, Glenn, thanks for reaching out. So Matt, thanks, man. 2019 was a blast. I'm super excited about 2020. I know we've got a couple classes scheduled already and a couple events scheduled already, and I couldn't be happier with where we're at. Any final words for anybody who might be watching?
Nope. Just we really appreciate your feedback. Our dealers and installers are what makes the company tick. So just never hesitate to be in contact with us. We appreciate all the support from the community we've been getting, and we want to do more to support everybody in 2020.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt. I'm going to bring up my screen one more time to give you guys a couple of websites to check out if you want some more information. So let me turn off my webcam here, and I'm going to share my screen here. Nick, can you see the screen? I think we're good. Okay, great. So if you guys take a look at the screen right now, you have a couple of websites you can check out. AVProEdge.com is our main website, and then Murideo.com. Everything Murideo related, including support forums and some tech support stuff in there as well. Bullet Train cables, if you want to check out any of those new really awesome AOC HDMI 48 gig cables, those are all listed on the website and different lengths and whatnot. And for any training classes that you might be interested in, give us a call. Give us a visit at avpro.training. You'll see what we have scheduled, and keep your eyes peeled on that, because we're constantly adding classes and adding new dates and whatnot. So with that being said, let me check the chat box one last time just in case. One of our Tony says thanks. Okay, good. Thanks, Tony. Thanks for listening in, man. Okay, cool. I don't see any other questions. So we will see you guys in 2020. Thank you so much for attending. And thank you so much for being our customers. We couldn't do it without you.